Wanna have some money and fascinating entertainment? Here is an incredibly stylish, smart, brand new online casino with over 800 of the hottest amusements, huge withdrawal limits, cashbacks, and many ongoing general promotions, like 500 euros and 175 free spins as a welcoming gift from SlotV team. Sounds good? Let's check it out! Follow the link below and win!
For Terrifying and True Hauntings. For most of us, hauntings are relegated to the realm of science fiction. There's always a logical explanation for these strange happenings, or at least that's what we tell ourselves. But what if there truly is no logical explanation? The 4 cases on this list are some of the most compelling and frightening ghost stories ever reported. These are 4 terrifying and true hauntings. Number 4. Exorcism of Latoya Ammons. The home on 3860 Carolina Street in Gary, Indiana, bustled with excitement in November of 2011 as Latoya Ammons and her family moved into the new rental home. Latoya, along with her 3 children, ages 12, 9, and 7, and her mother, Rose Campbell, were looking forward to the new start. The single-story, 3-bedroom house also contained a living room, 1 bathroom, an open-style small kitchen, and hardwood floors. Inside the kitchen was a small door which led to the basement, a dingy area with broken cement and dirt flooring. For the first few weeks, everything was going well, but by December, things began to change. The family noticed swarms of horseflies always circling the front porch. They tried to kill them, but no matter what they did, they kept coming back. Then strange creaks and noises began to come from the basement, sounds as if someone was climbing up and down the stairs at all hours. Rose then reported seeing a shadowy figure inside her bedroom one night. She was startled out of bed and then found a pair of large wet boot prints in its place. This happened on several occasions. There was one instance when Latoya called her mother to come inside her daughter's room because there she found the 12-year-old girl floating above her bed. Unsure of what to do, the women prayed until the girl was back lying on her bed, and she had no recollection of what had happened to her. The bizarre situation would only escalate from there when the children began behaving oddly. The 7-year-old boy would often sit inside the closet talking to an imaginary friend. Even worse, he then experienced being thrown from the bathroom by some unseen force. He also began talking in a strange and different voice. It was a growling and guttural noise he would let out while staring grimly at his mother and grandmother. Latoya's daughter also described being held down on the floor by an unknown entity while being choked. She said as the entity squeezed the life from her, it told her she would be dead in 20 minutes. At some point, the family began contacting churches for guidance. One man suggested cleansing the house, which they did. The house was quiet for a few days before the phenomenon started up again. Psychics were also consulted. When they checked the house, they said it was infested by up to 200 demons and suggested the family just move out. But since they couldn't afford to do so, the family performed a sulfur and sage cleansing and built an altar in the basement, but that all had little effect. Aware her children were displaying unusual health issues, Latoya consulted their family doctor. When he examined them, he said they were suffering from delusions and hallucinations. While Latoya tried to tell the doctor what was really happening, the youngest son started growling ferociously at the good doctor. He began hurling obscenities towards him, then levitated and pushed through the air into the surgery wall. At the same time, his brother collapsed and both were rushed to the emergency room. At the Methodist hospital, the older brother seemed fine when he woke up, but the younger brother continued to rage and throw fits. It took 5 male nurses to hold him down, and then the Department of Child Services was brought in. They interviewed Latoya, but could not find any problems with her. When they examined the 7-year-old, he again started growling and pouncing at the staff. Valerie Washington, the DCS representative, asked to see the children without their mother. Once the meeting started, the younger child looked at his older brother and said, "It's time to die. I will kill you." The older brother strangely looked back at him and smiled with an evil grin. He then floated across the room and walked backwards up the wall before flipping over Washington's head and landing behind her. Despite what they saw, the DCS decided to send the young child for psychological evaluation, while the older siblings were sent to a care facility close to their home. A chaplain of the Methodist Hospital heard the story from the staff and called in Father Michael Magano. The priest agreed it could be a case of possession and decided to visit the Ammons' home. After days of investigation, Magano concluded the main conduit was Latoya herself, not her children, and that it was best that they leave the home. It took several tries before the father gained permission to perform a full exorcism on Latoya. A total of 3 exorcisms were done, and by June of 2012, she was finally declared free from demonic possession. As for her children, it took several months before she could regain custody of them. The family has since moved to Indianapolis at an undisclosed address, but Father Magano remains in touch with them. Number 3. Ghost of Cannock Chase. From werewolves to UFOs, vampires, and black-eyed girls, the Cannock Chase in Staffordshire, England is a sensational spot for unusual phenomena. Unlike old abandoned hospitals or creepy forests, the Chase is a mix of woodlands, conifer plantations, and small industrial buildings, leftovers from a bygone era. Despite being a glorious place of natural beauty, the Chase is where many people's nightmares also begin. What made it famous, aside from its natural beauty, is the fact that in the 1960s, the bodies of 3 little girls were found buried there. The girls went missing around the A34 road that runs from the Chase to Birmingham. Later, a motor engineer was arrested for murdering 7-year-old Christina Darby. He was arrested in 1969 and jailed for life. While he was suspected, there was no concrete evidence, though, linking him to the death of the other girls. Over the years, several people have reported seeing or hearing little girls in the area. One woman said that while at the Chase, her aunt heard a girl crying and asking for help. This aunt then tried to chase the girl, hoping she could offer assistance, but for some reason, she was too fast and disappeared into the woodlands. Another story is of a woman who saw a young child with her hands covering her eyes. The woman was worried something was wrong with the little girl, so she asked if she was doing okay. It was then that she took the hands away from her face, only to reveal they were completely black. No irises or pupils, just complete darkness. The woman was startled and stepped back. Then, within a split second, the black-eyed girl had vanished completely. But it's not just ghostly little girls haunting the Chase either. There are also reports of strange cryptids roaming around. In fact, over 2,000 reported sightings of large black cats or unusually tall, hairy creatures have been seen there. In one incident, a woman was driving back home at 11:30 p.m. and decided to use the Chase as a shortcut. Close to the Spring Slade Lodge, she abruptly slammed the brakes as a tall, pale gray female stood in the middle of the road. Linda, the eyewitness, said this woman looked naked, but she had no breasts or genitalia. Linda looked into the mysterious woman's eyes. They were large and hypnotic, and it rendered her immobile. She said she felt awareness that she was being examined, but couldn't do anything about it. Minutes passed, and the mysterious woman then turned and walked away into the woodlands. Immediately after that, Linda was able to move again and drove away in a panic. People have also reported seeing a tall, faceless man in the area, and some believe this may have been where the stories of the Slender Man first came from. Finally, it seems the Chase attracts not just ghosts and cryptids, but also UFOs. In 2015, people living there were frightened as they heard a large rumbling sound. After some minutes, witnesses saw a large aircraft with 3 red lights flying overhead. They weren't sure what they were looking at, but many were terrified. The unidentified machine traveled slow and flew so close to the ground that people thought it was going to crash. It didn't, and then it flew away. After the craft disappeared, they said you could still hear the rumbling noise from its engine for quite some time. Today, the Chase continues to excite paranormal investigators and those with a more adventurous spirit. It's still a gorgeous place to check out, but just make sure not to find yourself alone, lest you come across someone or something you would rather not meet. Number 2. Ghost of Bellamy Bridge. In the heart of Marianna, Florida, lies an abandoned iron bridge considered as one of the oldest and most famous ghost bridges in the United States. The Bellamy Bridge is made of stainless steel and was built in 1914, being used as a crossing point for decades. Aside from being one of the oldest examples of steel bridges in Florida, it's among the top 10 oldest in the entire country. The current steel bridge was in use until 1963 when it fell into disrepair. The steel frame still stands as you see now, but the wooden planks are all gone. While it is a historic landmark, what sets apart the Bellamy Bridge from others are the stories surrounding it. 18-year-old Elizabeth Bellamy was the daughter of General William Croom, and Samuel Bellamy, her would-be husband, was the son of a wealthy plantation farmer. Both originally hailed from North Carolina, and soon after Elizabeth's older sister and Samuel's brother married, the two began their courtship. Both families approved, and the two were married in North Carolina in 1834. They were eager to move to Florida with their young son, Alexander. The family then lived around the area of the Chipola River and Mariana, and while the fertile land was great for growing cotton, it also harbored deadly mosquitoes. It was Elizabeth that first fell ill with malaria in May of 1837. Just a week later, their young son, Alexander, who was just 18 months old, also contracted the disease, and the two of them passed away. Samuel became the only survivor of the family, and he buried his wife and son under an oak tree close to where the bridge now stands. Samuel tried to live his life for several years, but he was unable to bear the loss of his wife and son. So, in 1853, he took his own life by slitting his throat with a razor. Since the 1890s, many people have reported witnessing the ghost of a woman haunting the bridge. Many believe this is the ghost of Elizabeth herself, and since then this apparition has been dubbed as the Lady of Bellamy Bridge. The actual sightings vary from that of a fireball hovering to a ghostly apparition of a woman walking on the bridge. While the Lady of Bellamy Bridge is the most famous ghost scene, there are other paranormal experiences reported as well. According to stories, a man named Sylvester Hart was murdered in the area. Sylvester was a moonshiner who got into an argument with two other moonshiners, and he was shot down in the back of the head. It's said his ghost is well known to haunt the area as well. With so many eyewitness accounts, it's hard to deny that something or someone is haunting the grounds around the Bellamy Bridge. Since it still stands today, anyone is welcome to go and visit to try and find out for themselves what exactly it is. Number 1. Cannock, Hellfire Farm. Considered as the UK's version of the Amityville House, Cannock, also known as Hellfire Farm, tormented the lives of its owners for years. In 1989, Bill and Liz Rich were looking for a new home to rent. Unexpectedly, while exploring the Brecon Beacons in Wales, they were approached by a landowner who said that he had converted a farmhouse that they could rent if they wanted. The couple checked it out and were impressed at how low the rent was for the home. The family of three, Bill, his pregnant wife Liz, and Bill's teenage son from his first marriage, Damien, moved into the new space soon after. For the first few months, everything was peaceful and quiet. Bill was a painter and had a large 40-foot studio dedicated for his work. He was a successful artist who managed to sell his paintings regularly. But one day when Bill went downstairs to the bathroom, he suddenly heard large footsteps coming from the hall above. It sounded like a man in boots walking along the floorboards. He was curious, so he went upstairs to check it out. Once there, he saw Liz feeding their newborn child while Damien was still sleeping inside his room. He couldn't find any source for the mysterious footsteps. One baffling thing the family kept getting was the unusual electric surges happening in the home. The family would receive high electric bills even though they were hardly using any electricity. The bill was problematic for the family, especially when Bill's paintings stopped selling. He reported the unusual phenomenon to their provider, Swallock. He initially thought someone must be tapping into their wires, but when the inspector came, he checked out everything and couldn't find anything unusual. They also tested the meter several times. In one instance, Bill was asked by the electrician to turn off every single appliance in the house so they could check the meter, but even after doing so, the electric meter kept going. Both men were confused, and even after the electrician double-checked that everything was turned off, the meter was still running as high as ever. With the constant electric surges still occurring, the apparitions then started appearing. The family began seeing bright, flashing lights coming from the barn at night. Liz also said she started feeling as if someone was watching her at all times. After that, Bill's attitude began to change. He was always drawn to the darker side and became obsessive with what was happening in their home. He started spending more time inside his studio and creating dark, disturbing paintings. For Liz, the home was starting to become suffocating. Then one night, the couple had a terrifying experience. Both Bill and Liz were in bed when they suddenly felt their bedroom door creaking open. They were shocked when they saw a curled up, blackened skeletal finger around the door latch before it suddenly slammed shut. Scared for their lives, they turned on the table lamp in a panic, only to find a hooded figure standing right at the foot of their bed. Eventually, Liz left the home, bringing her child with her. Bill stayed at the house, but something affected him while there. At one point, Liz found him almost catatonic and mumbling that dead bodies were walking around the house. As for why the Hellfire Farm was so haunted, locals say the home was built on top of an ancient graveyard. Others say the place used to be a witch's coven. Baptist minister David Holmwood also tried to help out the family, and one night he performed a ritual cleansing of the home. He took Bill's occult books and dark paintings and started burning them in a fire. While the trio looked on at the bonfire, one blazing book shot out from the pit and headed straight into Holmwood's face. Eventually, though, Bill and Liz divorced shortly after leaving the farm and their haunted life behind. Hellfire Farm is said to still be haunted, and it was recently featured as the story of choice for a popular paranormal TV show. So there were 4 terrifying and true hauntings. True hauntings are terrifying, not just for the outsider, but most especially for the people that had to live through them. Whether they are real or not is hard to say, but with so many stories out there, it's even harder to believe that they are all just made up out of thin air. We have new videos coming out every Wednesday and Saturday, so please remember to subscribe to our channel because you won't want to miss out on what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.